Good morning. It's almost 11 a.m. Texas time. We've warmed up all the way to 51 degrees. I've been mostly just kind of in sleep posture all morning. It's the air, you can see behind me, it's air still saturated with water. It's been great, like snoozing weather if I could fall asleep, but okay, the occasional offer of something. Actually, only one person came through. Young black brother slipped me a pack of my preferred cigarettes and a couple of $1 bills. But I really hate it, and I'm tired of explaining. Actually, I should start off by mentioning a young man came up here and was proud. I think he even may work for Dunkin'. Was bringing me like a dozen Dunkin' Donuts in a pristine box, and I just had to tell him I don't eat Frankenfood. It's the same thing I told the Catholic priest. Is I think because he's probably European, he didn't really understand the term. It's the dude that brought the Dunkin' Donuts didn't understand, never had heard the term Frankenfood, when I thought it was pretty much a common knowledge kind of word. I mean, didn't they make a documentary called Frankenfood? And this morning I just haven't been into explaining to people. He was the one that kind of pushed it the furthest, where I had to just let him know that if I eat it, it gives me diarrhea, it gives me dysentery. And I've been a bad boy too, because yesterday with the steak, all I ate, and I forgot that actually this morning, if I was hungry, I've still got, and it's been kept chill enough, still got 3 hard-boiled eggs. But all I ate yesterday, see, I was a bad boy last night. I ate a candy bar. It's because yesterday all I ate 3 hard-boiled eggs during midday while I was waiting on clear weather to cook. It's kind of hard to cook in weather like this. It's actually right now it's getting to be where it's okay, but it's with the wind and rain and stuff like that. But that's all I ate was 3 hard-boiled eggs and the steak. And I felt like having something sweet and more calories, something that was really calorie dense. I ate one, and then I can feel it in my lower abdomen this morning. It's already transited. It's ready, it's lining up to hit the dookie chute. But there had been, and actually I hated it. It kind of, but I just was almost asleep at the point in time. And he may be a priest from the St. Elizabeth's Hungarian Catholic Church, right a couple thousand feet away. But he popped up with some sort of, Starbucks looked like a croissant or a breakfast sandwich or something, and a cup of coffee. And I just had to tell him, and he had a slight accent to his English that indicates he might be European. People get this feeling, I've said it before 1,000 times, that when I reject the food, they get the feeling like I'm rejecting them. I'm not. I'm just trying to let them know that I can't eat them. Just like last night, I take full responsibility for eating the new delicious pecan Snickers. They're delicious, but I can tell I've reached my limit on highly processed, weird types of sugar and the little bit of palm oil that's in that particular candy bar. Because I know that the caramel layer it's palm oil and Franken sugar. I kind of feel it in the little bit of roughage with the pecan fiber. It's lining up for the dookie chute right now. I don't want to. I think a couple of people asked me, is there anything I can do for you? I was about to go like, yeah, you could take them 2 bags of trash right there and carry them to, because this morning because it was kind of miserable weather. Everything was damp. The air was damp. The air is still damp, and most everything is still damp, but ain't just soaking wet like it was this morning. I didn't want to spend that extra minute and a half and possibly get more mud on my shoes or something. When in fact they never sprinkled last night. I actually turned that piece of cardboard over. It was dry on the underside, and put the other piece of cardboard underneath me so I could keep. There you go. Me and my great. Need to get the best boy over here to grip and the best boy to work on my selfie stick here. So I've mostly just been relaxing for the last 3 or more hours and stuff. It was a little bit hilarious this morning. One guy angrily went up to the window at Starbucks. Starbucks didn't even get their delivery till 5 o'clock in the morning. That's when they're usually scheduled to open up, even on Sunday. One guy pulled up about 5:30 and said, and he's saying this with an accent that indicates that Spanish is his first language, although he speaks English well. He says, y'all need to communicate better. It says y'all open up at 4:30. I've never seen that on the web. It always says at the earliest it opens up at 5 a.m. You might be referring, and I swear he drove around for about an hour and came back until, because that same year and model make of Ford black, and just actually I started to make this because the traffic noise was getting so loud approaching noontime and church getting out or whatever. It's real nice of the Catholic priest to bring me what would have been a full breakfast for a normal kind of person. And those guys typically don't get a lot of money. They're supposed to, although I've seen some of them live like kings and stuff like that, drive Cadillacs and have nice, fine, tailored suits and stuff. And actually, one I can remember was actually in Scranton, PA, and he always drove a brand new Cadillac and finely tailored suits. And yeah, it's just one of them mornings. Yeah. Actually, before my second cup of tea, I think that's actually the leftover of eating the candy bar or something. It's like I get to these points where I just got to brush my teeth before I can indulge in anything else. I got to refresh it and inhale some of that menthol coming off I hold it in my mouth and hold my mouth open and breathe in deeply, get that menthol in there to kind of anesthetize and refresh my lungs a little bit. Yeah, this would be a great day for sleeping. It really would be. There's really nothing you'd want to do outside. It's closing in on noon. It's only just now beginning where the streets are kind of semi-dry and the trees and surfaces are just getting kind of semi-dry, but nowhere close to it. All the grass, you can look at the grass around here and still see that they're covered with condensate. I'm getting this uncomfortable feeling down there. It's either some gas or it's that pecan Snickers. It'd probably turn out just being some gas. See, I don't have much residue and fiber. I haven't eaten any black beans. Black beans are my primary source of fiber outside of the ground up pecan layer they put in in the Snickers. I am feeling like it's because now it's up to a nice, tropical 51 degrees. I feel like I might want to get my hands outside of the bag or a little bit and maybe started watching a movie that's pretty boring, an alien movie where the aliens can't go above 8,140 feet or something like that in altitude. This is supposed to be happening right outside of Boulder, Colorado, although don't really kind of look like it. It don't look like the. Because I flew over that, the Rocky Mountain National Park. I did that at right at close to Mach 1 most of the time. So that was a wild trip. I've told it before. I'm tired of telling stories over and over again, or just even mention them, because it leaves you hanging for. Some Uber driver was on here talking shit to me earlier. I just caught it on there, and when I went to his channel, it's the only comment he had on his, and what he drives is one of the little tiny Camrys and Corollas. Or some of the Kia Forte. I'm getting to where I can dive into them pretty good, but trying to get out of them, it's just brutal. It's just trying to get my feet past that little tiny space, twisting them, turning them. I can always get like my right foot out and trying to get I don't know, sometimes even getting the right foot out. So, and then I have to grab onto then here he is, he's talking about complaining, and he says he had to drive 20 minutes to make $7 on Uber. Well, then you're in the wrong place, buddy. And stuff, because around here, Uber drivers clean up. If they're really hustling, it's. And there he is driving a car that's really only meant for like the global average of men 5'6", women 5 feet tall, with little tiny feet. It's almost impossible for me to fit in the back of a Camry, Corollas, a number of other cars. Even I think some of the newer Cadillacs, the back seat has almost no. It's because of that aerodynamic thing they've been going towards. There's almost no headroom in the back seat of a Cadillac anymore. I just can't believe that. It's kind of coming to life, but I've been pretty relaxed this morning because I just don't really have nothing to do, other than sort things out, get things packed away from after the storm, after the rain, that whole like third of an inch, and then more dribs and drabs. It may have come to a total of about a half inch around here. It's really been damp and wet for days. I don't really want to get outside of this because there's constant pretty much wind motion, and I think I'm well insulated enough on my lower legs to be able to tolerate it. It's supposed to get up to 60 degrees today. That'll happen for about 15 minutes sometime in the afternoon. But I just need to keep my exposure to wind and wet down. It's just real unpleasant because winter's just beginning. It technically doesn't begin until what, the 21st? Yeah, here comes the. Oh, well, at least it wasn't a shart. It wasn't watery. It was some gas that was giving me some pain. See, I'm not used to gas. I'm not. Anyway. Yeah, it hasn't been for a Sunday morning, but it was several. I turned away a couple cups of coffee, and that nice priest, he kind of struck me as the kind of, they do tend to, the Catholics do tend to prefer men that are kind of easygoing and non-threatening. Of course, there was one Catholic priest at St. Joseph's in Bryan, Texas, that was just a flamer. I mean, he was as effeminate as you could get, and he used to do all the kind of, he used to hang around and console the families of people who were dying or who had just died. He'd hung around the hospital all the time doing that, kind of just being there for them as they're grieving or worried about their loved one who was being critical care. I remember him very well. He was extremely effeminate. But anyway, the Uber driver, I forgot that is. I went to his one video that's gotten 179 views. I guess I just bumped it to 180. And somebody else had already who identified as MAGA had identified him as a fascist, and that's essentially what he was doing to me. He was trying to tell me that it's some sort of super difficult job to be an Uber driver and that you don't make much money. No, as a matter of fact, all the documentaries I've seen on it is that it's pretty easy to actually hit your limit on because they try to limit you to about $600 a week. You know, try to keep you short of 700, so they can kind of spread the wealth around amongst other drivers. And the documentaries I've seen, a lot of guys, they rack up their $600 in 4 days, and then they got to turn to Lyft or DoorDashing or other stuff the rest of the time until they kind of start picking up rides from Uber again. You know, there's been a couple of documentaries that indicate that people are presenting proof that Uber tries to limit your income to somewhere between 600 to 700 tops a week. Shit, in this country and in this economy, you need $1,000 a week, and that's after expenses, just to survive, just to be, you know, middle class. Is you're right on the edge. If when you got expenses in that, you're still stuck in lower middle class or technically in poverty. They actually consider in this country $36,000 or less to be poverty. That's when you get, you know, earned income credit back on your taxes. You don't really have to pay any taxes. Well, I don't want to waste a lot of time on your time on this. I was just doing a midday, noontime kind of report, and I just want to remind people who are watching and stuff, because I've been tagging a lot. It comes up, people watch, that I really, you gotta, but I had trouble believing that young man, he's actually probably somewhere between 25 and 30, he brought me a dozen Dunkin' Donuts. I have trouble believing, sir, that you never heard the term Frankenfood before. He didn't understand what it was. I just said, you know, highly processed foods. I had to explain to him that it makes me ill, it gives me diarrhea and stuff like that. It's painful. It's shit's, and it would be so easy in this time of year when everybody's trying to give me food instead of cash, which is what I really need for survival, like hotel rooms. If I ate, you know, even a fraction of the food that's been brought to me and stuff, I would weigh, and especially it being Frankenfood, I'd be sitting here in a puddle of my own shit, and I would weigh about 350 pounds. That's how I react to Frankenfood. That's how I think most people react to Frankenfood. It's great. These two people are going and taking up both lanes. It's a fucking strange ass driving around here. Anyway, it hadn't been too bad though. And this morning I've just been giving them the briefest, no thanks, I can't. I should need to say I can't eat Frankenfood instead of saying I don't eat. That sounds kind of snobby. I need to switch my phrase to I can't eat Frankenfood. Then they might understand I have a medical prohibition. So I got to work on that phrase. So I've been saying I don't eat. I am getting to the point though where I think I actually preserved the coconut oil and the juice from yesterday's steak. Since they didn't, I should be able to heat up some, but then that means I've got to either that or hook it with my umbrella, get a can of like black beans and put it in that frying pan, heat it up, and that would be delicious. With all that beef flavor, and I could put in a can of beef too, but just my appetite's not that up there today. It's usually never in the morning. I usually wait almost always till noon or afterwards to start eating. And now I know this time of year, I got to depend upon at least for very sweet green tea for at least about a third of my necessary caloric intake to maintain body heat. I'm gonna let you go. I'm just not at 20 minutes here. I'm just not that into oh no, there you go. I'm afraid it is. Here you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I got you a coffee.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I really can't eat. See, I said it right this time. I really can't eat frankenfood. You'll find out sooner or later. I mean, Harvard even finally published on it this year. I just can't eat it without it making me ill.
Without coffee making you. What about a sandwich?
Even the sandwiches. It depends on the. I'm sorry, I just can't.
That's okay.
It makes me ill.
It
gives me diarrhea and stuff like that. Stomach cramps. It's been a real battle. But there's still, and even my best friend, his wife is a professor of biochemistry. I'm a biochemist, and they're coffee aficionados, and they didn't know until I told them when I figured out because I was doing testing. That really almost all coffee, they're now using the Roundup glyphosate in it to ripen them prematurely. So that cup is not only full of I don't like any kind of dark roast because of the tannic acid.
Yeah,
because actually the tannic acid breaks down the caffeine, which I usually only consume coffee as medicinally to bring my blood pressure up. But
got you.
About in the last 6 months, it's becoming more common knowledge that they've been using Roundup glyphosate instead of Juan Valdez picking a single red bean material at a time.
Yes.
Now they just spray the whole branch and just rake it off. They cut their labor costs down.
Right.
And nobody's monitoring. It's 1 part per million, but nobody's really monitoring how much of the.
It's being done in other countries.
Yeah, their plantations in Costa Rica, but I'm sure they buy bulk, cheapest.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was young, the concept French dark roast coffee didn't exist. It was a marketing thing. So once they burn that bean and create that much tannic acid and acrylamide, it's bad for the heart. Once they burn it that much, where they've absolutely killed any kind of fungal spores or anything else, and made it so toxic, that it really gives it kind of infinite shelf life. So it was really a marketing move to be able to buy coffee beans when they're available at the lowest prices, and then burn them and then stock them away.
Right. Yeah.
You couldn't buy burnt coffee beans in this country. Even up to 50 years ago, it just didn't exist. And they created this French dark roast, and I find it horrible coffee. I've made coffee in coffee countries from just barely pasteurized beans. It's delicious. Think about it. Why would you want to drive off the flavor that's inside that bean and fill up like the whole China Basin in San Francisco?
For money.
Because
it's all about making money.
It just smells so lovely, but it is primarily because they're trying to preserve them beans for as long as they can, because they're somewhat susceptible to rotting and stuff like that early on if you're just But the other stuff, the wheat now is all full of glyphosate, or now they're using cormaquat. And even though I have, I usually don't react too badly to like their butter croissant.
Yeah.
Are they actually using butter, or are they using butter flavored Crisco? It tastes like and acts like. I did eat one the other day. I really but you never know from one batch of wheat to another how much glyphosate or cormaquat is going to have it. And they're doing it to all the grains and legumes. And it's a real battle. I have found about 16 foods. They're all really at that Walmart.
Right.
And that's really all I eat is foods that I have picked out. And actually, you bring it up down today to almost about $50 in food donations that I've had to politely reject tried to
No,
explain
you
to
got
them
to
that
do that for yourself, and that, yeah.
yeah, I
And I'm
try to
glad
tell
that
people to actually
you're
ask me
telling me
first, and I'll
this.
just tell them no,
Yes,
and then
yes.
save the money. But
Got
then I'm
you.
finding out a lot of them, they just hang on to it, take it home, and reheat it, and they don't waste it. But a lot
Yeah,
of it just does go to waste.
yeah.
And I even at
We'll make
point in
sure.
times I have, just to keep from kind of arguing with people or having to
Yeah.
educate people, I'll just I'll gladly accept it, and then just it goes right in the trash bag.
Well, I want to tell you, thank you for the education.
Yeah,
I appreciate it,
it's
and I'm
really,
glad my daughter got to hear it too.
yeah, it's
So,
the Frankenfood.
yes.
Harvard even published this year
Yeah.
that the American food supply was not only pathogenic, it's carcinogenic. And I'm the guy that explained why it's actually even the increase in garlic, powdered garlic in the American diet, and that stupid capsaicin. Even they tried the sweet, the sweet and spicy. Capsaicin is a cannabinoid neuroreceptor 1
Yes.
antagonist.
Yeah.
You say yeah, but I'm it's one of the first people who published it. And garlic is an aspirin-like drug, and it's actually all the aspirin-like drugs. This is my discovery. Despite their molecular dissimilarity, they were destroying the most important molecule in the body, the molecule that God gave you to cure cancer. It's already been proven. Harvard did it. You just don't hear about it on the news. Cannabis cures cancer by replacing arachidonyl ethanolamide. You had your phone handy, I'd give you the generic term so you can look it up. But it's especially critical to women because when Dick Nixon forced women off of prescription Darvon, propoxyphene, in 1970, you're not old enough to remember, and onto prescription Motrin, ibuprofen. All that led to was generation after generation of women suffering from endometriosis, benign fibroids, early hysterectomies, and then on to the breast cancer, etc.
Yeah.
And just bad health, constant battling with. And in the men, it's causing the need for, because it triggers the nitric oxide mechanism, it's causing all this need for Viagra, Cialis. If you want your daughter, I don't have my glasses on, if you expect to have grandchildren, you must absolutely avoid all these over-the-counter pain relievers and minimize your garlic intake. Because I really grew up in a culture and stuff, and because my family founded Texas, and we're really mostly we have a real sensitive Anglo palate. Most spices are toxic except for vanilla, which is a neurochemical analog. The vanilloid receptor adjoins the cannabinoid receptor, which adjoins and works in concert with larger, more complex GABA nodes. That's the most important structure in the brain. And if you want to, not be sick your entire life, you absolutely got to stay away from garlic, capsaicin, all these aspirin-like drugs. They already knew we had
capsaicin, but I had no idea about garlic. I thought fresh garlic was
capsaicin
good
is horrible.
For you. I thought fresh garlic was good for you.
Nope, I was the first one to publish based on one chemical analysis that it was indeed an antiprostanoid and just as lethal as aspirin. It's horrible for you. I don't care what all these industry funded. I don't care what the anecdotes. I don't care what the old wives' tales say. I always tell people who disagree with me on it, I'd say, well, just swallow whole, because that's the easy way to do it. Just swallow 50 cloves of garlic tonight. And when you don't wake up in the morning, you call me and tell me how great garlic is.
Yes.
Because for a person your size, 50 cloves of garlic, which I've seen chicken recipes that have 50 cloves in a tiny chicken. That's enough to actually kill you. That's the equivalent of taking 50 aspirin.
Got you. Okay.
50 aspirin is usually the LD 50, lethal dose 50 for most people. And stuff, it's horrible. When I was young, I had one doctor, instead of trying to prescribe for my first spinal fracture, I was 14. I come from an NFL family.
Got you. Yeah.
Instead of prescribing opioids, he was telling me to try to just take 10 aspirin. 10 aspirin gets you so. They do prescribe it, and it'll get you whacked out. It's like shooting up a 40 bag of heroin. It'll get you high, and it will kill pain. but it will also immediately ulcerate you and make you feel horrible and depressed because it's destroying. Like I said, despite the molecular dissimilarity of all the COX-1, COX-2 inhibitors, all these aspirin-like drugs, they uniformly oxidize and destroy arachidonyl ethanolamide. You got your phone handy?
It's in my car.
Well, it's okay. I was just going to give you the generic term anyway, but I was doing it. I taught a guy a PhD yesterday, and his wife was mostly working in stent, new stent development, stuff like that. And he works with surgeons and MDs all the time. And it's just amazing how much they've suppressed what is the cutting edge, the most important arachidonyl ethanolamide has proven to not only cure cancer, but or its analog cannabis. It also regulates and protects every cell in the body. And we have a diet, and the majority of drugs that are dispensed destroy that molecule.
We always call it a pill for every ill. That's what I'm just like that.
Yeah, it creates every ill out there. By 1998,
all the side effects
by 98, we had 1,000 pamphlets in every doctor's office pointing out that by what we knew in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, that the largest selling class of drugs, the aspirin-like drugs, are responsible for over half. It's actually over half of the hospitalizations and over half of the doctor office visits in this country are to treat the diseases that were known, way back when, and now it's actually higher. It's closer to about 85% of all disease in this country is being caused by those so easy, just pop a couple of ibuprofen. And women in particular tend to take ibuprofen because it's readily available and it's kind of a standard for their menses.
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know. I've been married. It's actually that's what led me to these discoveries. Is that after a hard day working in the garden and stuff, I took some of my wife's ibuprofen. It was Nuprin and Advil or something, and then the next morning I woke up blind, and I was an undiagnosed glaucomic, and then took until the second blinding before I started figuring it out, and right then the science exploded. I led the science. I went around all the PhDs on earth and self-published right on air here in Austin. And actually my biggest fan and friend was the co-founder of International Cannabinoid Research Society. Don't ever let anybody tell you that cannabis is bad for you. It's only bad under certain circumstances, if you're schizophrenic and short of dopamine, or if you have a anxiety disorder where you're short of your GABA chemistry, or you're having a sleep disruption due to irregular serotonin production and uptake and stuff. And actually that's what makes it a great psychiatric diagnostic tool, because you can administer cannabis, and based on the person's reaction to it, you can tell, because the only other way we could judge your neurochemical levels in your brain is to literally take your brain out of your head, run it through a blender, and then thin layer chromatography is the only way to tell it. Don't ever believe that they can, these TV shows that claim that, well, we tested you and you're running low on certain, no, they can't. Actually, there is no existing test other than using cannabis as a diagnostic to see what you get. That's why the reactions to cannabis can be so varying. And that was the first thing I said on my first TV show, is that all you hippies need to shut up. You keep saying it's safe for everybody. I said it's not safe for schizophrenics or anybody. It could actually, a person could have a minor dopaminergic defect. That's dopamine is schizophrenia and Parkinson's. And it will destabilize them, and a single dose of cannabis could lead the person to go over the top, because they were just beginning to get around, and I was angry at them because they hadn't marketed Zyprexa. And I'm the guy that got Zyprexa back on the market, because during the open trials, they started seeing 2-type diabetes.
And what is your name?
My name's Kent Kruger.
Kent Kruger?
Kent Kruger.
Okay, thank you. I'm just like...
Yeah, I know. Well, I used to do the most incredible science shows, right? Unrehearsed, unscripted. I used to have, actually, I did even after a serious recent head injury, 22 months ago, within a couple of months after that, I still tested for, and you almost never find eidetic memory in adults. That's photographic memory. It's really eidetic memory is really mostly confined to children. Usually it's gone by the time you're 20. So all these TVs and movie stuff that you've seen, they're pulling your leg. These people pretend that there's been only really maybe a few hundred cases of documented eidetic memory in adults, and I recently passed a test just before my 69th birthday or something like that. And after a really bad subdural hematoma.
Oh my goodness.
And kind of blew the shrink away. But even eidetic memory is kind of still two-dimensional. It's all it's literally photographic student. So
just like a photo, just like an actual photo,
Yeah, it's literally it's mostly it revolves around you. They show you a picture, and then I drew that picture precisely to the millimeter with a broken arm and ripped out rotator, everything, and a torn ligament in my because I'm left-handed. I still drew it. Everything was in the correct proportion. It was just a little bit of slight variation, but I passed the eidetic test, which kind of blew away that shrink.
That's amazing. Well, we're gonna take off. We're gonna head off to church now. But thank you so much.
I actually had a Catholic priest this morning try to get
Really?
I think he may have been with St. Elizabeth's over there or something.
Okay. Yeah, we're over here in Victory City, so yes. But thank you.
Just remember,
keep talking to people. I appreciate
and if you ever go to the ophthalmologist, don't ever let them put the drops. It's not the active ingredients; it's the preservative. Chlorobutanol. They knew before I was born that causes glaucoma. But really, if you want to stay healthy, you absolutely got to avoid the aspirin-like drugs. Reject them.
Okay.
Doctor tries to prescribe them to you, tell them no, and also the Tylenol. Tylenol isn't technically.
The one about with
I remember the Tylenol lawsuit where they lost. They proved that at the 1 kilogram lifetime intake level. Why do you think there's a dialysis unit in every town of 30, 40,000?
Oh, yeah, we have a whole unit.
It's Tylenol. And its cousin phenesetin was pulled off the market by 1970.
Right.
I know I took some of that APC, aspirin, phenesetin, and caffeine was, and phenesetin was linked to about 1 million deaths and just came off the market. No big wig, no.
And isn't it connected to autism too?
What?
Like when you're pregnant, taking Tylenol?
Actually, it's my opinion. Here I go. The World Health Organization is going to get on me again. I don't care if I spend it. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which is Trump made a good movie, put him in charge of Health and Human Services, but he put that stupid Mehmet Oz, who's a good thoracic surgeon, but he doesn't know anything about food toxicity. I think he may have put him in charge of the FDA or something. That's the only, but no, it's RFK Jr. Thinks it's a lot of the autism is being caused by either vaccines. There I go. I'll get a weak strike on that, or like tartrazine, this yellow and red food dyes. That's what they make Cheetos.
Yes.
Those particular red.
Yes.
And because they find some link there, but I personally think it's the whole Frankenfood diet and stuff that's causing the autism rate. Because he claims, RFK Jr. claims it's now 1 in 34. And that's the only commonality that I can see in all these autism cases is the diet.
No, I agree. I told her I'll travel and I go to other countries and I'm like, the food is amazing over there.
Yeah,
and they are
less toxicity except for the spices.
Exactly.
You just really got to keep off the really spicy stuff if it's hot and just a lot of spices are super toxic, like the stuff they put on eggnog and stuff, the nutmeg and the secret ingredient in hot dogs is the really toxic shell called mace, M-A-C-E, that covers the already toxic.
The hot dog together?
No, that covers the nutmeg fruit thing, which is but that's actually the secret ingredient that creates that unique hot dog flavor.
Yes,
it's mace. And that stuff is so toxic. I've had to learn a lot about food chemistry just to keep myself alive. And I can tell by reaction that it's, what is toxic and what ain't. But it's hard to find. I'm now down to about 16 items. And I really need to stick to that.
And keep sticking to that. Well,
I know, but it's not easy when people start bringing it nice, hot,
Well, that's but you're sticking to your guns, and that's good, and I'm glad I got
and
to hear
I'm keeping
everything.
you off camera and stuff.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you wanted to get off that mud.
Yeah.
It'll be all in your car.
That's okay. I got rubber mats. Well, good luck to you. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good day. God bless. And this is how I spend my days. The guy that was doing the stent researcher and stuff, the PhD yesterday, he said you should just be teaching. I said I am still teaching. I teach people all the time, and my videos are being watched on all the inhabited continents on this planet. So I still teach all the time. That's about all I can do. See you guys later.